Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Kelly Lightner. She is a personality coach. She guides business professionals in understanding the importance of other people's values. She is a relationship expert and a registered nurse. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thank you.
You are welcome to the show, Kelly. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk about. We'll be talking about how we can understand, truly understand each other. How we can understand the other's perspectives without judgment. But first, to understand from you, Kelly, for the audience, you are a several things: personality coach, trainer, relationship expert, human connection expert, registered nurse. Tell us a bit about your own journey so that people know who is Kelly Lightner, so that they can understand the value of the wisdom that you are imparting.
All right. So, I was a nurse for a number of years and I was in a direct sales company at that point in time. And then I got to a point where I was able to leave the nursing job and focus just on that direct sales. And as I was doing that, we had a conference where somebody came in and taught this methodology. And as soon as I learned it, I went, oh, this is why I stink at what I'm doing. This is why nobody wants to, get involved with what I am actually doing. And it's because I was talking about what was important for me. Everybody should be, excited about what I'm excited about because of research and science and da, 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 da. So I was talking very much from a knowledge personality standpoint. And most of the people I was talking to were not knowledge people. They had a different set of values. So I was talking to them about things that either went over their head for one, or two, like I said, they just didn't care about. So once I realized this, I was like, oh, well, I need to learn more. I jumped into some training. And then I'm like, okay, this is great, but how do I keep the rest of the team that I'm part of motivated with this? How do we bring new people in, or when new people come in, how do we teach it to them? And so then I looked into the idea of being a trainer with the company. And that's kind of all she wrote. I fell in love with it at that point, and realized I wanted to spend more time doing this than I was with what I was doing in direct sales. For one, again, it was something that was designed for sales, but it has evolved. And people came back to the woman who created it and said, this saved my marriage. This made me a better parent. And she's like, wait a minute, what? And so looking into it, it applies in personal lives just as much as it does in business. It's helped my husband is also trained in this as well. It has helped our marriage get better because now we're not having those exact same fights all the time because of what was important to me was not the same things important to him. I'm kind of, as an example, I'm somebody who's always early to everything. My husband,
Right.
not so much.
Carry on, carry on, carry on, carry
on. And now that he understands that that's important to me, he's made adjustments to that. And there's times where he's ready to go before I am now. And it's like, wait a minute, you're changing the rules on me here. That's not quite fair.
Right.
And it's helped me understand, okay, here's one, my father. When I finally got him to crack his code, it made so many things about our life with him make so much more sense. Going back to that knowledge personality again, he is that knowledge personality. It's his primary. My mom's is too, but theirs looked different. And this is why one of the reasons their marriage didn't last. My mom always told us our dad was dumb. We're not as highly intelligent as she is. And after I had him crack his code, I was like, oh, I get it. I still get this now. They're both knowledges, but my mom was interested in arts and, to use a little bit of slang here, hoity-toity stuff. And my dad was more interested in technology and hands-on things. So what they were interested in was so totally different. But my dad was also somebody who was not a huggy person. He didn't like to go to big group events. He doesn't even like to go to family events if he can get out of them. He'll do a short appearance and then leave. But that's very common for the knowledge personality type. Like I said, once I understood that, I'm like, oh, my childhood makes so much more sense now. And I get it. My sisters don't. And I'm trying to work on them to help them. Sorry, something on my face. Help them understand our dad better, because they're so frustrated with him because some of those same things. He doesn't call. If we want to talk to him, we have to call him. We can't expect him to call us. It's just how he's wired. And I get it, and I'm not offended anymore or hurt by it. But I'm working on them, and they're being resistant, and they don't want to hear what I have to say right now about it. But sales and relationships very much are intertwined in the personality world, and we're also bringing it into schools. Imagine helping kids early on understand each other, understand the different personalities, the teachers understanding the personality values of the students, and very particularly for the action personality child, because these are our very high energy kids, and they tend to get in trouble in classrooms a lot. And they can be perceived as disruptive, and it's not that they're disruptive, they're bored most of the time, and they need something else to keep them stimulated and keep them engaged. And teachers, as a general rule, at least here in the US, they tend to be high blueprint, and that's the structured and keeping everything organized. And then you've got an action child who doesn't care about that at all. So you get mismatches in those classrooms.
Right, right, Kelly. So I want to understand for the audience is understanding others' perspectives is very good. But what about our own perspective? Because the equality part will vanish, or all my efforts will vanish if the other person is not trying to understand my perspective of having a good perspective about them. So how does that work?
So yeah, I mean, after cracking my own code, then I started understanding why I do the things I do, but then to understand that not everybody else is going to get that right away. If they haven't been trained in it, I can't expect them to completely see and honor what I have. But if I start knowing what their code is, I can understand where they're coming from, and then maybe help them understand who I am. I'm hoping that makes sense. So what we teach people is, if we know this, we can't expect somebody that's never been taught that to be able to speak to what's important to us. We have to kind of, and I hate to say it this way, but lead them a little bit to get to where they understand more about who we are and what makes us tick. And some people just won't ever get there.
Right, right, Kelly. So where does this part work better? Because see, if you tell a police person that, listen, you understand the perspective of a thief, then he will never be able to take him to jail, because he or she will start thinking about the difficult times. Though as a society we must look at it, judges do look at this part also in terms of looking, but many a times there is not a situation where you can understand others' perspectives. But yes, if I understand this thing can work in business, in sales, how does that work for the ground? What are the benefits people can get by looking more at other person's perspective without judgment? Help us understand this part. Maybe the benefits part people will understand better. I am very much here. Some light fluctuation has happened.
As I say, all of a sudden you lost your light.
No, I'm very much here. Yeah, I'm back. Yeah.
All right. So you did ask about in business first on this one, correct? So
Right.
knowing, again, it was designed for sales. So if you're going into a situation where you're meeting somebody and trying to close a deal, if I talk to them, so let me use an example here. So
Yes.
in person, we can crack their code using these 4 little cards. And since I am usually this one first, if I meet with somebody who's this one first, these are total opposite personality types. So if I know that going in, one, this personality is usually a very high energy. This is what I was talking about with the kids that, they tend to be what is perceived as troublemakers because they're high energy. They love excitement. They love fun. They love freedom. The blueprint, they like rules. They like structure. They like things to be organized. So if I'm meeting with an action person, one, I know there's a good possibility they're going to be late. It's not personal, where some blueprints will take that personal and be offended if somebody is late. I know there's a good possibility this person is going to be late. Be prepared for that. I also know this person wants bottom line information. So I don't want to bore them with tons and tons of details. Like right now, I'm probably boring the actions that are listening to death because I'm going into a lot of detail. So knowing that, one, I bring my energy up. I give them the basics of what they need. And if they have more questions, they'll ask, of course. And then that can shorten, one, the sales cycle, because I'm meeting what they need right away. I'm not guessing. I'm not needing several meetings to kind of parse it out and figure out what it is they're looking for. I already have a good idea of how to approach what that is. So when you shorten that sales cycle, you can close more sales as well. So one of the things they say is we can increase our sales up to 300%. Long story, different training. We'll leave it at that. But not only in sales, but if you're in business and you're a leader and you know who's on your team, you can, one, motivate better because you know what their values are and what makes them want to do more. You can hire more effectively by cracking their code and knowing who they are and whether or not they would be a good fit in the department. Or everybody in the department's trained, and when this new person comes in, they already know that personality type and the best ways to work with them. So you can create a much better harmony in the workspace that way.
Right, Kelly. You talk about the bank methodology. Tell us about this methodology of yours so that people can utilize it in their lives and how to utilize it actually.
Okay. So BANK, it's an acronym for the 4 personality types. So you've got the blueprint, the action, nurturing, and knowledge. So many people think I'm in financials when I go to meetings and I say, oh yeah, I teach the BANK methodology. Oh, you work for a bank? No, not at all. I don't work for a bank. So the whole methodology is, one, knowing what the 12 values are for each of those personality types and how to meet those needs. Once you know that, cracking the code before you meet with somebody, so you know how to work with them, so you meet them for what's important. Sorry, I just totally lost my train of thought there. You have them crack their code. They get a report if they do it on the online version. And so they get told all about who they are. And most people like that. Then we get a sales report that tells us how to work with that personality type. Best things ever. So I always review those things before I meet with somebody, make sure I'm on the right track with what I'm going to be talking about with them. So, I mean, it can be as simple as that. And if you're, one of the great things about this methodology over all the other personality ones that are out there, I'm sure many of you know about DISC and Myers-Briggs and all these others. One, it's done in 90 seconds or less. Two, it tells you about them versus telling you about you.
Right, Kelly. So in terms of your clients, when they come to you as a personality coach, as a trainer, what is it that they generally seek your help in?
Well, like myself, a lot of people are looking to increase their sales or understand why they're not selling so well. So yeah, they're usually looking to do better in their jobs, whether it is the sales or it is in people connections or leadership connections. And I'm hoping I want to get into working with schools as well. So, improving the classrooms, improving families. If I can take us off topic slightly, we've had families come back and say, this saved my child's life. So think about a child who everybody else in the family is one personality type and they're the total opposite growing up in a house where you don't feel like you fit in. The place that you're supposed to feel safest, the most protected, the most loved, but you don't feel that you fit in. So we've had kids that once the families have learned this, it's prevented suicide. We've had kids who are very much on the edge of that, and it has stopped that. Thank goodness. Yeah, and people finally going, oh, I understand my child, and there's not that friction anymore, or there's a lot less of it. I won't say anymore because there's always going to be frictions as kids grow up, especially when they hit teenagehood, when they want to push boundaries at that point.
Yes. Right, Kelly. So as there is much to learn about all these things, and from you. So you also have some sort of a if I understand, you want to talk about some free personality reports, something that you wanted to offer to the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was kind of talking about with having either the physical cards or the online version of the cards. So I do have a link that can be used if you want to find out what your bank code is, what that means, and what that looks like. I always like to tell people, once you get that report, if it sounds like you, give it to your significant other and go, here's my user manual. Especially if you guys have the same fights and arguments all the time, as many of us do, because we tend to marry our opposites. But yeah, you can go there. It is crackmycode.com/Kelly. If you don't put the /Kelly behind it, I won't ever see that you did it, because I would love to follow up and make sure it sounds like you. And then also then send you what the sales report looks like once we agree that that's what it sounds like.
Right. And what is the best way for them to connect with you? Is there any particular social media handle or anything that you would like to share?
So I'm very active with Facebook and starting to become more active on LinkedIn. I am also on Instagram, but that one I maybe pop in there once every couple of weeks. So I'm not nearly as active on that one, but Facebook and LinkedIn, you can find me there. Last time I checked with both of them, I'm the only Kelly Leightner, so it should be pretty easy to find me.
Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me.